Hello, everyone.
That is not appropriately attached.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
Well, welcome to Indiana.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
I hear you just rolled in.
Just flew in. Plane just landed. I left New York this morning, and there was an uneventful. Now you get on an airplane, you got to be thinking what's going to happen. So it was uneventful. I'm happy to say.
We like uneventful flights.
Yes, it's the only way to fly.
Well, now you get to just relax and enjoy hanging out with some fans.
Good. Oh.
But before we get talking about your on-screen work, I'm a book girly, so I got to talk about your books.
Okay.
How many of you guys know that he wrote a couple books? None of you?
Right.
Oh, let's go. Okay, my husband does, but that's
I'm
okay.
an author.
Yes. So your book is I'd Like to Apologize to Every Teacher I've Ever Had.
Well, first of all, I wrote a cookbook.
Yes.
I wrote a cookbook with my son. It's called Don't Fill Up on the Antipasta, which is what you used to hear. If you're Italian, from when you got my generation my parents got here, they wanted to assimilate. It was very important that they became part of America. You weren't allowed to speak Italian in the house. You had to speak, and all that stuff. But the one thing they didn't want to do was give up their culture, and basically their culture was food. Was the food. So what would happen? It would manifest itself on Thanksgiving, because what would happen is that you'd have an antipasta, which is a giant antipasta. Then you'd have the lasagna, and it has an article, the lasagna. And then after that, they bring out a whole turkey dinner with all the it's great stuffing, and they were mad at you if you filled up on the antipasta. You got to eat to the end, so don't fill up on the antipasta. You hear? So that was the name of the book, and it's great. It's a memoir cookbook. It's sort of like 50 recipes attached to all my family, to relatives. Uncle John's clams, that kind of thing. And then I wrote a book. It's so crazy. 29 and 2010, I took a year off. I was walking around telling people, and this will age me, but I was telling people, I could smell 60. It was coming, It was just coming. So I wanted to try, and I went to school to be a teacher, and I had this romantic idea of teaching, so I wanted to try it, and I got myself a job at Philadelphia at an inner city school called Northeast High, 3,500 kids. Any Vikings in the house? Oh, anyway, ready for this? Ironically, I taught 10th grade English because that's what they needed. I was a history major, but they said, we need an English teacher. So, okay, I'll try it. So I had to learn the curriculum, but it was amazing. It was the most amazing thing. And so I wrote this book. It's called I Want to Apologize to Every Teacher I Ever Had, my year at Northeast High, because if you try to teach for a year, you just will not believe how tough it is, how hard it is. I never cried so much. I constantly was crying. I always thought that I was, I had this tremendous responsibility to give these kids a good 10th grade. What are you going to give them another one? Well, it was Tony Danza. Let's give you another one. No, this is the only one they're getting. So I was like, really, it was hard. It was really hard. I worked hard, but I loved it. It was the greatest thing. And then at the end, I'm proud to say that the principal, Miss Carroll, who told me when I first came, look, these are my kids. You don't live up to what you're supposed to do. I'm going to take you out of here myself. This is what she says to me. And at the end, she said, you did a good job, and if you'd like to come back. And I said to her, Miss Carroll, don't get me wrong, I'm flattered. That's unbelievable. But I think at this age, I'm at an age where I don't want to care that much about anything, because it was so great. But that the book, it's pretty good. It's pretty good, and actually. I'm proud of it, actually. And I wrote a book. I don't know about you. Anybody write a book? Anybody else wrote a book in the place? It's hard. You know what I mean? You try everything, too. You try, like, all right, I'll get up and I'll start writing, and I'll do it. And then, let's try it at night. I'll wake up at 2 and write till 6. But I couldn't. It was crazy. I finally came on to something. If you want to write, I think this really works, is you just get up in the morning and start. You can get a cup of coffee, but that's all. Don't look at it in your email. Don't do anything else. Just go right to work on it, and it gets done eventually. Eventually. It takes time, but eventually.
It is an excellent book.
Thank you very
Your
much.
passion for education really shines through on those pages. What was it like for you to channel all of that passion into these students, but then also onto the page?
Well, it was like I said. I felt this tremendous responsibility to the kids. That was the thing that was really haunting me. But I'm a big believer. I don't know about the rest of you, but I feel like we've kind of, as a society, we've kind of abdicated our any responsibility for nurturing our children anymore. You know, when I was on TV, there used to be a family hour, but you could only show so many what kind of show, and we were worried about what they were watching or what they were doing, and we're not anymore. They're customers just like the rest of us. They can watch and do whatever they want, and I don't know. I think it's pretty silly of us if we think that, oh, don't worry, someday they'll just wake up and say it's time to be well-adjusted. That ain't gonna happen, So, well, you know what I'm doing? I'm actually doing something. Excuse me. By the way, what is your name?
Stephanie.
Stephanie. I'm sorry, Stephanie. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephanie. Yes, give her a hand. I'm toughest job in the world. I have a program in New York City, and we're going into our third year as a fully legitimate nonprofit. It's called the Stars of Tomorrow Project. It's a teen acting, voice, dance, and wellness program for New York City high school kids. We go and solicit at the high schools. The slogan is teen acting, because when you teach a kid how to act, you teach a kid how to act. That was stupid, but anyway. But it's been great. We just did. I was telling Mark, we did a show the other night in New York on the Upper West Side. We did this show at the Triad, and we're riding really high now. The program is really riding high because we have a kid who came to us when he was 16. His name is Daniel Hernandez. He came to us when he was 16, convinced he didn't want to go to college, really wasn't interested in acting, but hey, it's free, there might be girls, it was that kind of thing. So he came and he stayed with us for a semester, and it was terrific. It was terrific. But then he disappeared on us. And so we have this woman that works for us. Her name is Bijou, and the kids call her Auntie because she's all over them. And she went and found him, got him to come back. We got him financing, got him into SUNY Purchase, the college, the State University of New York. He finished his college, and are you ready? He made his debut on Broadway in Romeo and Juliet just recently. I know, amazing. A kid from our program made it to Broadway, and we went. I'm sorry. And we took. It's my son. It's my son. Son, I'm doing a panel in Indianapolis. Can I call you back? Okay, buddy. I love you.
Does he want to talk about the cookbook?
So anyway, he came back and he told the people about what the program meant to him and stuff, and it was really. And when we went, we took like 20 kids to see the show, and it was in a round. And it was very athletic. Romeo and Juliet, it's kids climbing, and forget about it. I couldn't do it, but at the end, he brought the whole cast out, and they had a talk back with our kids. And then he says, this is where I come from. Without them, I don't know where I would be, because he wasn't going to go. His father's a porter, a janitor, and he was thinking that's what he was going to do. So pretty good. He's got a Broadway credit. Pretty good. I'm sorry, Stephanie. I just got off a plane. I'm wired. I'm fired up.
We got to get you settled down. Ready. Calm.
Yes.
But one thing I loved about the book is how you really met the kids where they were with these English lessons, especially using Twilight and Mean Girls. Some of the members of the Twilight cast are here this weekend. Are you going to tell them that story?
That's funny. No, you know what I tried to do? Kids are illiterate, not illiterate, illiterate. They can read, but they don't. And so I tried to give them things that maybe they'd be interested in. And but I'll be honest with you, the curriculum is like of Mice and Men, Animal Farm, Julius Caesar, which was imagine me teaching Shakespeare, holy moly, and but it's those kind of and To Kill a Mockingbird, which was the greatest. It was the greatest, And I had this great moment. I'm going to tell you what happened. So I told the kids, I'm taking you to New York. I want to take you to New York. We're going to get a bus. We're all going to go to New York. We're going to see a show. We saw West Side Story. And I'm going to take you to 42nd. I'm going to take you to Times Square. I'm going to take you to Central Park. I'm going to make a New York thing for them, Okay. Oh, great. We're so excited. So what happens is I get a note from the principal, Miss Carol. Oh, she's deadly. She says, I want to go. So, right. So, by the way, on this trip, we had no trouble finding chaperones. So many teachers wanted to go, So anyway, now Miss Carol wants to go. So I go into class and I say to the kids, hey, Miss Carol wants to go on the trip with us. Oh, no, not her. We won't have any fun. She's this, she's that. I said, all right, look, I'm going to teach you a very, very important lesson. If you listen to this and you pay attention and you learn this lesson will serve you well for the rest of your life. It's called making the best of a bad situation. Because let me explain something. She's going. You can say anything you want, but she's going with us. And we have two choices. We could get mad and say we don't want her, or we could send her a note and say, Miss Carol, we're so happy you're coming. We can't imagine going without you. And then maybe later on in the year, if we need something, we could go to her. And it did. And they got it. And from then on, every time, that's another example of making it. I had them chanting it. Come on, say it with me. Making the best of a bad situation. So by the way, that's my teaching style.
Are you still in contact with any of the students?
I sure am. Oh, yes. Oh, I sure am. And some of them are one of the kids, so I had a very ethnic, diverse class. So I had white and black Nick. That was the only way I could, I had white Nick and I had black Nick. So, so black Nick, white Nick right now is got a hot sauce company called, it was Monster Pickle, but now it's Hot Stuff or something like that. But he's doing great, and the other and Black Nick is in the Army and like a colonel or something now. Yeah, so it's really something, really something.
What is something that the students taught you?
Well, I learned a lot. I really did learn. First of all, I learned to appreciate the work that teachers do. I mean, it's got to be, nowadays the motivated student is not the norm. The unmotivated student. It used to be, most kids were motivated, then there'd be a couple of them unmotivated. Now it's the other way around, and then phones don't help. That's been like, and even then, that's it's 15 years ago. It was a problem, and now when we go to the schools now, I'm telling you, the addiction is so total. They're staring at their phones to the point where it's like, they're averaging 7 to 9 hours a day doing that. And the only social interaction is them showing each other the phone. It's just crazy, So you got to really, that's one thing that kind of worries me. What did they teach me? They taught me that I don't know so much. They told me I don't know as much as I think I know. And but I think the thing that I tried to do in the class was make them enjoy the work, so that it didn't become like, oh, I got to do this thing. I tried to make it, interesting for them, and it just teaches you a lot of humility. It really does. It really teaches you humility. Yeah. And then every once in a while, a kid will do something, so spectacular. You'll get a note. They'll stick it on your desk, or I had a couple of kids who had IEPs, individual educational programs, and I got in trouble for this. So I was given a test, and I said to the 3 kids, they're like, well, just take the test. Just take it. Let's see what happens, So I get called out to the principal's office. That's against the law. You're not allowed to do that. They have to have their help. But anyway, it was an attempt to really, I don't know. I just wanted to see how much I can inspire them. How much,
It's a great book. You all should check it out. If you have questions for Tony, you can line up along the front up here, and we'll get to those. as we are able to.
You don't have to line up. You can stay in your chair and just raise your hand. What the heck?
Well, we have a microphone. They got
Oh, you got a
they gotta
microphone.
screen the
Okay, yeah.
questions.
Okay, I'm sorry.
They got to
Rob,
screen the
I'm
questions.
sorry. Okay. I was going to run around and say, okay, you.
Okay. What's your name and what's your question?
Oh, my name is Patrick.
Hey, Pat.
The difference between alcoholic and is one has the last name and the other goes to meetings. The difference between alcoholic is.
Wait. I want to hear this. The difference between an alcoholic and what?
The difference between a drunk and an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Alcoholics go to meetings and drunks have last names.
That's not bad.
But the question being, would you rather be doing this or would you rather be working on a series acting?
Well, I am acting. You know, I am in a series right now. I'm in a show called Raising Canaan on the Stars Network, and I'm playing a bad guy, which is a lot of fun. I'm a performer. You know, I'm also singing and dancing all the time, and I'm also, you know, it's what I do. I mean, it's what I've been doing for 50 years now, and so it's not so much the delineation between a series or something like that. I mean, you make a lot of money if you're working on a series. That's not bad. That's always good. But I just like to. I'm really dying to get on a stage. I'm dying to get back on Broadway. I mean, so it's an amazing thing to be in this industry and be viable. You know, and by the way, and also at this age to be viable is a whole other story.
Yeah, I was trying to climb. You can't climb ladders like you used to. You can't pick up stuff.
Yeah, you can't do anything like you used to.
I guess I don't want to take all these other people's
That's
time.
okay, Patrick. Thank you.
I was wondering because you're talking about your book. Was it hard to get it published?
No, you know what happened? I actually made this pitch. And they were really high. Unfortunately, you know what happened? I had all these interviews scheduled on all the cable channels I was going to go, and it was about a teaching thing, and there happened to be a teaching strike in Chicago, a teacher's strike. So it was perfect. I was set up. I was going to have a big book, you know, and then the Arab Spring happened, and they canceled all my my appearances, so nobody heard about the book. You know, this is what happened. Timing is everything.
I'll talk about your book all day.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you for your
I
question.
appreciate your time.
Nice talking to you.
Hi, what's your name and what's your question?
My name is Randy, and first of all, thank you. I'm an educator, and so thank you for being a voice, because in this time we need that. So please
Randy.
keep going on and doing that.
Boy, did I learn my lesson,
Dude,
man.
I'm trying not to tear up. I cry about my job all the time. I'm a big pansy about it.
Oh, forget
about it. Yeah, no, I'm like, I didn't think we'd be talking about education, so thank you. First of all, boy, I've recently gotten into Taxi, and so as a new fan, I remember when I was like 2 or 3, the music, but I don't remember anything about it.
So
How would you suggest somebody who's now consuming this in a streaming format, what's the best way to approach that as somebody new to Taxi, in your opinion?
I was with the whole Taxi group, what was Thursday night, Danny DeVito was honored in New York City at the Roundabout Theater, and we all were there. Judd, Chris, Judd's going to be 90, Chris is 87. I know tomorrow's his birthday. We've been around a long time, and we've been together 45 years now, 46, something like that. And we do all this. We're always together, which is fun. I'll give an example of what I think about that. What Taxi to me is, it's the humor. It's the humor that it's very smart, and it's the right, like, for instance, I was thinking about a joke that I did on that show, okay? So the scene opens with me knocking at a rectory door. Okay, the door opens and the priest comes out. Hey, Tony, what are you doing? I said, hey, Father, can I talk to you? And he brings me inside. Sure, Tony, come on inside. Said, what's going on? I said, Father, I got a problem. I lost my job. The garage closed down. I lost my job, and I tried, Father. I tried to find a job, but I couldn't find one. I just couldn't find one. So I had to take a job as a collector for my uncle, the bookmaker. I took a job as a collector for a bookmaker. And the priest says, oh, Tony. I said, yeah, but Father, wait. I do it different. I don't hurt anybody. I'm not a tough guy. I don't break bones to get the money. I don't do anything like that. And the priest says to me, well, if you feel that way, why have you come to me so troubled? And I say, because you owe $300. So it was that kind of mentality, you know what I mean? So that's the kind of thing, and it was so much fun to play. And you got to remember, my first job, my first acting job, it was like, and you know what the greatest thing about those people are? Is, so imagine this, you're an actor, you've been knocking around Hollywood for a while, and boom, you get this job. You get a series. Now, first of all, remember, back then there were only 3 networks. You were on TV. It was huge. It was huge. Okay, so you get this show. It's got everything. It's got the best writers. They're all from Mary Tyler Moore. The best director, Jimmy Burrows. It's got the best time slot. You're going to be on after the #1 show on TV, Three's Company, right? You got it. It's going to be on ABC, which was the hottest network. You got except one thing. There's this boxer, this fighter we found in New York. He's never acted. We're going to put him in the show. And I wonder how I would have reacted now, but they welcomed me. Not one bit of resentment. And I've run into resentment, believe me. I had a very famous actor say to me one time, you know, I had just gotten a show on Netflix. And I met him in the street, and he said, "What are you doing now?" I said, "I got this show on Netflix." And he goes to me, "And the rest of us had to go to acting school." I said, what are you? Give me a break, pal. But they just welcomed me with open arms, and it's why I was able to thrive, I think, because, you know, I think if I would have felt, you know, out of place there, I would have, who knows what would have happened. But that's it. That's what Taxi is.
Thank you for
Thank you. Hello there.
Hey, what's your name and what's your question?
Tony, I'm Robert.
Hi,
This is truly an honor to meet you, sir, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And I actually am a bit of a semi-active substitute teacher myself. I actually taught for about 2 years before I went into banking. My question is, who were some of your biggest role models early on when you started in your career? And did anybody give you any advice early on that stuck with you?
Yeah. Well, everybody in Taxi, especially Danny. You want to hear how I meet Danny? This could only happen to me. So imagine, I land in California. I land in Los Angeles. I go rent the cheapest car I could, the cheapest little car, because I'm broke. And I drive to Paramount. Paramount's on Melrose Avenue, and there's these majestic gates to the studio, you know. And I pull up and I go, this guy ain't gonna let me on this. What are you kidding me? They're gonna let me. But I pull in and I say, hello, excuse me, my name's Tony Danza and I'm here to do a show called Taxi. He goes, yeah, Mr. Danza, yeah. Okay, good. Just pull over there. And on the lot, they had this giant wall of blue sky. And what they would do is they'd fill up the parking lot and use those miniature battleships, and they would film with the sky behind it. It was all for, so, it's a movie studio. That's what they do. And people are walking around in costume. You got to see it. I was like, oh, my God, where am I? So he says, all right, Mr. Danza, just go over there by the sky. You just pull into that lot over there, park over there. You'll be fine. Okay, and then you're on stage 25. I said, oh, thanks, man. I can't believe it. So I pull up. I park the car. I go to get out of the car, and as I'm getting out of the car, I hear, hey, can't park there. So I say to the guy at the gate told me that I could, and he doesn't even let me finish. Hey, I told you, you can't park there. So now that's enough. I can't take that. I'm from New York. So I go, hey, what are you, a cop? So he says, what are you, a wise guy? And he starts coming towards me. So now I'm not backing down. So I start going this way. And all of a sudden, we start having words. And all of a sudden, I feel like somebody pulling on your sleeve. Just pulling on my sleeve. And I turn, and there's Danny DeVito. Now, if you've never seen Danny DeVito before in your life, this is quite a sight, right? There's this little guy pulling on my jacket, and he says to me, are you Tony Danza? I said, yeah. He says, you're with me, come on. And that was how I met him. And he's had me under his wing ever since. Wow. It was just that kind of thing. Yeah, they're really wonderful guys and girls. It's wonderful, it really is. What was your question?
Tony, my question was, who were some of your biggest role models early on in your career when you started? And did anyone give you any solid piece of advice
I got
that
it.
stuck with you?
I got it. First of all, everybody in the show was role models, and you couldn't believe. Also, when you're doing a show like that, who comes in? The guest stars, Ruth Gordon, and I mean, we had people you can't believe in that show. So it was amazing. So that they were all role models, and I'd watch them, and they made it look so easy. So, but I worked with a guy. We did a show. Where Tony goes off in the Merchant Marine with his father. His father comes back, and his father and him are estranged. But his father says, "Come on, I'm going to take you out, and they're going to go on a Merchant Marine ship." You know what I mean? And so we go, and we have this. It's one of the great fight scenes of all time. It's in Taxi. It's an incredible fight scene. We get in a fight in a bar, and it's just incredible. It was wonderful. And the actor's name was Donnelly Rhodes. Donnelly Rhodes. Now, if you remember Soap, the TV show, he was Jessica's boyfriend. He was the murderer who used to come in through the window. Okay, he's a wonderful actor. He's been around forever. So we were working, and here's the advice. So he said, and I give it to a lot of kids. He says to me, "So, how do you study your lines?" So I said, "Well, I study them, I study them." He says, "How?" I said, "Well, I kind of want to be free, so I learn them, but I'm not crazy about them. I want to know them, but I want to." I says, "And then I can be free." He says to me, "No, you can't. No, you can't. The only way you can be free is if you know those lines backwards and forwards, so that they come out like you would be speaking."
Yeah.
And then he says to me, and remember this, I can't do what you can do. You can't do what I can do. But I can't do what you can do. Nobody can do what you can do. So if you really believe that, and you've learned your lines, you'll be better off. And I'm telling you, it takes the pressure off you too. Because listen, this is all I got. As long as I don't get in my own way, then that's it. You can't say, could I be better? Sure, I could be Marlon Brando, but that's not going to happen. This is what I got. But if you really believe that nobody can do what you can do and don't get in your own way, it takes a lot of pressure off. And learn your lines, that's for sure.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thank you.
We are almost out of time, so let's try to do rapid
Okay.
fire for these last
Okay,
two. So
sure.
come on up.
I'm in no hurry. I don't know why.
Well, they'll kick us off. They'll get the hook and drag us off the stage.
Hi, Tony. I'm Amanda.
Hi, Amanda.
Lifelong fan.
Thank you.
My parents, this is their very first convention ever, and we came here because of you.
Oh, it's so nice.
we're going to get a picture with you
Oh,
later.
please.
This is my dad, Jeff.
Hi, Dad. How are you?
My question is, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
There's so many. I mean, really, it's like a revelation a day. No, I think one of the things that I am guilty of is I sometimes I don't contemplate long enough. I don't consider long enough. I make snap decisions and I go about it. I think that's one of the things that I've been trying to do less of. But I think that's the one thing that I would. I just think patience in general, and I come from a family that if they weren't yelling, they didn't care. But that's no good in business world, because people don't know what it is, and most of them aren't Italian. But I just think it's about patience and about being able to see the other side.
Thank you.
Also, I just wanted to throw out there, because I follow you on social media, your different shows with your singing and entertaining. You should come to Indy. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, yeah. No, I got to come. I got a cousin here. I got to come anyway. Yes, Dad.
Hey, I'm Dad. It's so awesome to meet you. I've been a lifelong fan. Just thank you for being all these years, all the shows you do and everything.
appreciate
It's completely awesome. My question is more towards boxing.
Ah,
Okay. Two of my favorite fighters are Ray Boom Boom Mancini.
yeah. It was his birthday the other day.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm at a loss for words here.
That's all right.
Yeah, no. I just can't believe I'm talking to Tony Danza. and Hector Macho Camacho.
Yeah.
And I knew them two fought, and I think it was a split decision or whatever. One question is, have you ever sparred with Ray?
Have
you ever sparred?
I have sparred
You
with
have?
Ray.
Okay.
Yeah, I also killed him in a movie.
Yeah,
I did. I killed him in a movie. He's a good friend of mine. He's
Very
a
good
good friend of mine. And you know, one of the great things about my life is my timing, the timing of my life. So when I got out of college, I went home and I didn't want to be a teacher, and I ended up in a boxing gym in the 70s when
the 70s.
that was the mecca. That was when boxing in New York was.
Yes.
I trained in the gym with Muhammad Ali. I trained in the gym with so many guys, you can't believe it. It's wild. So.
well, I know he was on Who's the Boss in one episode. I think he played Joey, yeah.
Oh, well, we had Carlos Palomino on Taxi. We had
Thomas the Hitman,
Armando
huh?
Muniz on Taxi.
Okay.
On Who's the Boss, I boxed Tommy
Tommy
Hearns.
Hearns,
That
Hitman,
was
yeah.
crazy.
Tommy Hitman.
Very smart.
I remember that episode. And then just to follow up on that.
Go ahead.
If Mike Tyson was in his prime and Muhammad Ali was in his prime, who would win, in your opinion?
Ali would make him trip over his feet.
Really?
Are you
Okay.
kidding me?
Yeah, okay.
No, there was nobody. Let me tell you something real quick about Ali. Let me
Okay.
tell you something quick about Ali. So to me, there's nobody like him. There's nobody like him. By the way, one day in the gym, in Gleason's gym on 30th and 8th Avenue, he's training for a fight at Yankee Stadium. I'm fighting in Prospect Hall in Brooklyn, a little different venue. But he saw me, it's the first time he saw me, and I was standing in the ring warming up, and there's a staircase that goes up to the VIP dressing rooms. And I was waiting to see him because everybody knew he was there. And it was the Ali Roadshow. There was 1 million people, you know, and all of a sudden he appeared at the top of the steps in a white terry cloth robe. I mean, it was, you know, it was like unbelievable. So I looked, and I thought for a second that our eyes met, that we made eye contact. And so I averted my eyes, you know. I couldn't look at him, you know, oh my God. And he started to scream. He started to scream, ah, ah, and he ran down the stairs. And in a feat of incredible athleticism, he jumped up on the trainer's table and then over the top rope. I mean, this guy was unbelievable. You know, he was a big guy doing that. Yeah. And I'm standing in the ring, and there was like 3 other guys who were warming up in there, and he's coming right at me, and I can't believe this is happening. And all of a sudden, he gets me in a headlock. And he starts giving me noogies. And he says, "Go back to school, white boy. This game ain't for you." But let me tell you something. So one day I was playing Rainbow and Stars, one of these cabaret clubs in New York. It's on top of Rockefeller Center. And somebody came up and said that Norman Mailer, the great writer, was having a book party downstairs, and I happened to have been a friend. And he said, "They want you to come down." So oh, sure, I'll come down. So I told the guys, I'll be back. I went downstairs. We have a sound check. I went downstairs, and Ali was there. Ali was there, and he says to me, "What are you doing here?" I says, "I'm singing and dancing upstairs." He goes, "What time?" And he looks, and he came to see me, but that's not the story. So I stayed for about 20 minutes, and then I went back upstairs, and I must have rehearsed for another 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then I had to go home. I lived close to there, so I was going downstairs, and I went out the 50th Street exit. And when I walked out, there was a sea of people. The streets were closed. There were cops. There was everything else. And in the middle is Ali. And remember, he's having trouble. And he's got Howard Bingham, which was his sidekick. And he's shepherding him around through the crowd. And I stood there, and I watched him for over an hour sign every autograph. Now, by the way, thank God this was before phones. So he didn't have to take pictures, people draped over. But people were sometimes I wanted to wade in and beat people up because they'd stick a thing in his face and stuff, you know. But anyway, he finishes, and I'm like furious. I feel for him. I'm like, because he was uncomfortable, it was hard. So I go to him, I go, "Champ, why? Why do you put yourself through this? What do you do that for?" He can't even talk. He's whispering. He leans down and he says, "I'm just trying to get into heaven." One of the greatest men of all time. I mean it. Really something.
Thank you all for your
Thank you.
questions.
Thank you so much.
Tony Danza, if you want to ask more questions, head down to see him on
Thank you
Celebrity
for coming,
Row.
everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you